I had already signed the divorce papers. They were tucked inside a brown envelope that felt heavier than anything I had ever carried. After 12 years of marriage, I believed there was nothing left to save. The laughter had disappeared, the warmth had faded, and the woman I once loved seemed like a stranger living under the same roof. But everything changed the moment I stopped outside our living room door and accidentally overheard a confession my wife made to her mother. In that heartbreaking moment, I realized the greatest mistake of my life wasn't marrying her, it was believing I knew her story. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that touch the heart. For months, I had convinced myself our marriage had reached its end. Every conversation turned into silence. Every dinner was eaten across a table that felt wider than an ocean. She smiled less, laughed even less, and spent more time staring out the window than looking at me. I assumed she had fallen out of love. I blamed myself at first, then blamed her. Eventually, blame became exhaustion, and exhaustion became acceptance. Divorce felt like the only answer. I remembered the early years of our relationship when everything seemed effortless. We had built dreams together in a tiny apartment with second-hand furniture and walls covered with photographs of happier days. We promised to face every storm together. Life, however, had different plans. Financial struggles, long work hours, family responsibilities, and personal disappointments slowly chipped away at what once seemed unbreakable. Neither of us noticed how far apart we had drifted until the distance became impossible to ignore. When I finally decided to end the marriage, I didn't feel angry anymore. I simply felt empty. I packed the divorce papers into an envelope and planned to give them to her that evening. Before leaving for work, I realized I had forgotten an important file at home. I quietly returned during lunch, unlocked the front door, and heard voices coming from the living room. It was my wife speaking softly with her mother over tea. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was about to announce myself when I heard my name. Something in her trembling voice stopped me. She admitted she knew I was unhappy. She said she had seen it in my eyes for months and blamed herself every single day. Then came the words that shattered everything I believed. She confessed she had recently learned she had a serious medical condition that might require expensive treatment. She hadn't told me because she knew how hard I had been working to keep our finances stable. She couldn't bear the thought of becoming another burden. She believed that if I left her now, I would at least have a chance to live a peaceful life instead of spending years caring for someone who might never fully recover. She admitted that every cold response, every distant moment, and every forced smile had been an attempt to make me stop loving her. She wanted me to hate her because she believed hatred would make leaving easier than watching her slowly suffer. My entire world collapsed. The envelope slipped from my hands onto the hallway floor. My heart pounded as memories replayed in my mind. Every time I thought she was rejecting me, she had actually been protecting me. Every lonely night she cried herself to sleep after pretending everything was fine. Every fake smile had hidden unimaginable fear. I quietly picked up the envelope and walked outside before anyone noticed me. I sat in my car for nearly an hour, unable to stop crying. I realized I had spent months creating stories inside my head instead of asking one simple question, "Are you okay?" That evening, I came home carrying flowers instead of divorce papers. The envelope remained locked inside my desk drawer. When she looked at me with surprise, I saw exhaustion in her eyes that I had ignored for far too long. For the first time in months, I wrapped my arms around her without saying a word. She tried to hold back her tears, but they came anyway. Mine followed. That night, we talked longer than we had in years. There were no accusations, no raised voices, and no pride standing between us. Only honesty. She told me everything about the diagnosis, the fear, and the guilt she carried alone. I confessed how close I had come to ending our marriage and how ashamed I felt for assuming the worst instead of choosing compassion. From that day forward, our lives became different. Not easier, but more honest. Hospital visits replaced weekend vacations. Medical bills replaced home renovation plans. Sleepless nights became common, but so did holding each other's hands through every difficult moment. Love no longer looked like grand romantic gestures. It looked like making breakfast after chemotherapy, sitting together during long appointments, sharing quiet smiles even when hope felt small, and reminding each other that no one had to fight alone. Recovery took many months. Some days brought good news, while others tested every ounce of our strength. But every challenge reminded us why we had chosen each other in the first place. We learned that marriage isn't about loving someone only during the happiest chapters. It's about refusing to let go when life writes its darkest pages. Looking back, I often wonder what would have happened if I had handed her those divorce papers before hearing the conversation. I would have spent the rest of my life believing my marriage failed because love disappeared, when the truth was that fear had simply become louder than communication. Today, our home is filled with laughter again. The scars remain, both visible and invisible, but they remind us how close we came to losing everything because we stopped talking and started assuming. Sometimes, the people we think have stopped loving us are actually carrying burdens so heavy they don't know how to ask for help. Sometimes silence isn't rejection. Sometimes distance is pain wearing a disguise. And sometimes the greatest act of love is choosing to stay long enough to understand the truth. If this story touched your heart, please write in the comments, "Love begins with understanding." Your words may give hope to someone silently struggling today. As I finally took the divorce papers out of that old brown envelope months later, I didn't sign them. Instead, I fed them into a paper shredder while my wife stood beside me holding my hand. Tiny pieces of paper floated into the trash, carrying away the biggest mistake I almost made. That sound wasn't the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of a new one, built not on perfect days, but on honesty, compassion, forgiveness, and the courage to listen before giving up. If this story moved you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue sharing heartfelt stories that remind us all that sometimes, one conversation can save a lifetime of love.